The Minnesota Vikings have extended head coach Kevin O'Connell. It's a huge day for Minnesota, one that shapes the franchise for years to come, and there's going to be more good news coming down the pipeline. We're going to talk about all the ramifications here on a special bonus episode of The Real Forno Show.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Real Forno Show, hosted by the one and only Tyler Fornes. A to Z Sports sought him out to be their Minnesota Vikings reporter and NFL analyst. And he's a proud contributor over at SKOL North's Purple Daily. Tyler is also the captivating host of The Good, The Bad, and The Hungry on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network, and a founding member of Vikings First and SKOL.
Normally, Dave and I don't record at 4:15 on a Tuesday afternoon, but let me tell you, we are when there's breaking news. Welcome to The Real Forno Show, sponsored by Underdog Fantasy. I'm your host, Tyler Fornes. With me, as always, in the top left corner, he is producer Dave. Dave, what bourbon did you crack to celebrate this momentous occasion?
I have yet to. I should, but I have yet to.
You know what? You probably should. And it's a huge day. The Vikings finally secured Kevin O'Connell past the 2025 season. And let me tell you, this was something we had told you there wasn't really an issue at all. And what the reason being it wasn't an issue was because of how the Wilfs had structured their contracts with their coaches and front office personnel. And they have always waited until the final year of the contract in order to have that conversation. And guess what? Now we're on the final year of that contract because the first 3 years have passed. And guess what? They got it done in 8 days. Like O'Connell, the rumors about the trades. Look, I guarantee you that Jay Glazer was right in that teams wanted to trade for Kevin O'Connell. Let's just be honest. But that doesn't mean the Vikings had any interest. And I think that's a really big part of this whole conversation. And O'Connell even said, I want to be here. I want to lead the Vikings to a Super Bowl. And that's paraphrased from his season-ending press conference last Tuesday. But they got it done. And this is a huge, huge day, Dave.
It is. And the fact that the whole rumors of trading KOC, which I'm sure there was some validity to, there's tension, as reported by Mike Florio. Maybe so. Maybe it was just somebody trying to push some buttons and to motivate this negotiation. Or could it have been they were waiting on Ben Johnson to sign his and see what he got?
Dave, that is a really, really good point, because we see this all the time with players. They will wait for somebody else to sign first, and then when that player signs, guess what? Then they're able to jump on it and set the market. And even if it's not to set the market, it's to be like, well, this new guy just got 13. Why am I not getting that? And I've gone 34-17. 34-17 is a lot.
That is amazing. It is. So, and he's first head coach to fastest to winning 30 wins. And yes, Too Evil. Yes, he needs to win a playoff game. I got that. And yes, Purple Pessimist, accountability starts. Accountability's always been there. He's got to rectify some things. But it is a good thing that this whole drama of KOC leaving is no longer a drama. It's secured. We can all rest assured that he's going to roll in with Justin Jefferson, J.J. McCarthy, Jordan Addison, Hawkinson, TJ, and whoever at running back next year around any offense and be able to perform and produce points, hopefully at a greater than 100% or 100 points against, like he did this year.
Yeah. And I think the big thing with KOC, kind of to talk about some of the issues in the chat, like I think you already mentioned it, Dave. Like, there's already been accountability with this regime. And it's not perfect. And I think one of the things that we may get out over our skis on is the fact that the Vikings have been rebuilding for 3 years. And they're 34-17. This is how you conduct a rebuild. I used to be, you know what? You probably got to tear it down, start over, get a bunch of draft picks. But here's the thing. When you get rid of all that talent, you got to replace them with talented players. And the draft is an inexact science. The Lions, one of the reasons why they're so great is because they were obscenely good at picking in the top 50. Penei Sewell, Aiden Hutchinson, Brian Branch, Jahmyr Gibbs, Jack Campbell, Sam Laporta. Like, you got to be absurdly good picking the top 50. And then they got like Aleem McNeil, who's on a humongous contract now. Levi Onwuzurike was also a good pick. He's probably going to have to leave during free agency because of everything else the Lions have done. But they hit on draft picks.
And a lot of those were high draft picks because they stunk.
Yeah, and you can't always do that. Do you know how many times the Browns tried to draft high so then they could like restart their franchise? It doesn't always work that way. So Kwesi Ofo-Mensah comes in here and kind of gaslights us a little bit, saying competitive rebuild. And a lot of people are like, what is going on? You can't do a competitive rebuild. Well, they just did. And they took this idea of we're going to still try to compete while we're fixing this roster and making the health of the roster that much better. And guess what? They did just that. They achieved their goal. They made it happen. Why? The coaching. The right players on the right deals. Giving Stephon Gilmore $7 million for 1 year? Great call. Shaq Griffin, even though it supposedly cost us a third-round comp pick, Shaq Griffin was good this year. He was a starting caliber corner for $4 million. Blake Cashman, average annual value, 7.25. Jonathan Gennard, 19. He played as well as Danielle Hunter did, and Hunter got 24. And guess what? That also allowed you to get Andrew Van Ginkel, who was a second-team All-Pro. Sam Darnold for $10 million. Like, they are doing things the right way. Have the results been exactly what we want? No. And I think that's where some of the disconnect is between like the success, especially of Kwesi Ofo-Mensah. Everybody buries him for that 2022 NFL draft. Look, it's looking a lot worse now than it did before the year. And I was a defender of it. Look, I think the big thing here with like Kwesi Ofo-Mensah, and we're going to use this to talk about him too, because this is a big factor in him getting extended as well. The big thing with that NFL draft is they were using different processes. They were using different scouts. And you can tell the drastic shift in how Ofo-Mensah wants to handle the NFL draft over from 2022 to 2023 and 2024. He's handling it differently now. And that's a good thing. He's learning, adapting, and fixing it. That's awesome. And I think
Kwesi's acumen at picking free agents off the market has been outstanding. Last year's the best ever of any squad that I know of.
Yeah, it's a really big one because I'm trying to think here because I've got like a lot of different thoughts running through my head all at the same time. Thank you guys so much for joining on this random ass Tuesday episode because, well, guess what? We are having fun today because Kevin O'Connell just got extended. Big thing here when it comes to like Kwesi Ofo-Mensah in the draft. I just think people just need to chill out. It didn't work one draft. Guess what? Next draft, you got essentially 2 starters with your first 2 picks. And use draft picks to get TJ Hawkinson. And one of the things, as you mentioned, like the identifying free agents, it's much easier to identify NFL players when they're playing in the NFL than it is to identify college players that you expect to project to the NFL. And I think Ofo-Mensah has such a good eye and understanding for the pro game. And then you have the college game. It's harder because they're running different kinds of schemes. You're playing against different types of athletes. It's a harder thing. But I do think he's getting better at it. And I think the getting better at it aspect, Dave, is a really big thing here. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I believe Kwesi Ofo-Mensah is the greatest thing since sliced bread. I think he is a good general manager. And I think that's a very fair assumption, a fair take. He's good. It's not great, not phenomenal. He's very good. And I think he's on the path to being a great general manager. But you're going to need a little bit more success from those draft picks. Every general manager has their flaws, but if Dallas Turner lives up to the hype, which he showed flashes of this year, and he showed a lot of improvement game over game, even only at 310 snaps. But are you really mad about keeping Andrew Van Ginkel and Dallas or Jonathan Grenard on the field? I'm not. They played at all-pro level this year. You don't take those guys off.
Mm-hmm.
And if J.J. McCarthy hits, everybody's going to want to build Kwesi a statue.
Two Evil says Verse would have been a better pick than Turner. Well, Verse is a grown man. Turner just turned, 21, 22? And
he'll be 22 in a couple weeks.
Yeah. He's still growing. There's still time. I think we get more of the benefit long-term than short-term. Now, did we have a Super Bowl roster this year? Obviously, the answer is no. But we did get a lot further than was anticipated, i.e. 6.5 wins. And this year, even though the last 2 games soured us, was a fun year to watch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it has been a really fun year. And it was an unexpected year as my dog is chewing on something. I never know if he's...
Now, my rule for a head coach generally is, because we looked this up under Zimmer, how many head coaches make a Super Bowl after 5 years without one? And there was like only 2. So you give them that first 5 years, and let's see what they can do. Kevin O'Connell's eaten up 3 of those, but 2 of those 3 were 13-plus wins. So I think he's on the right track. And then you put in J.J. McCarthy, the hopeful future of the franchise, who I think will be that guy who will not melt under pressure like Sam did. And then I think we have different results. So that's Dave. That's what I feel, but I think it's going to work. I think this was a good extension because I hate starting over every few years because the coach sucked. It stinks every time.
Hey, Odie wanted to make an appearance. Say hi, Odie. I know Odie doesn't like me picking him up. I love how you could just hear Odie just I don't know, snort. Mm-hmm. There we go. That's Odie saying hi and he loves everybody. But yeah, it's fascinating. I'm gonna be honest, I didn't catch a lot of what you said, Dave, because I was trying to get a toothpick. There's a toothpick on my floor in my office. I don't know how that got there, but he was chewing on it, so I had to make sure he got that out. Right. What were you saying?
Oh, that I give a coach 5 years. 5 years to win the Super Bowl, because we did this research before under Zimmer. Mm-hmm. There's only been like 2 head coaches in the history that's won a Super Bowl after 5 years. That normally win it within the first 5. But so far, with the 2 years of 13-plus wins, we've done great. And we have not gotten our franchise quarterback on the field yet, which is J.J. McCarthy. And most head coaches that win Super Bowls have that franchise quarterback that we all hope J.J. McCarthy is. And I can't wait. It's going to be fun this next couple of years.
I agree. I do think it's going to be a lot of fun the next few years. And for me, one of the things that, like, it's hard for me, Dave, to say that it has to be like, oh, you have to win in this 5-year window. I understand why the stat's there. I understand that it exists, but I do think it's worth noting that it's fucking hard to win a Super Bowl. It's really hard to win a Super Bowl because, like,
you got to be the best team out of 32. Right.
Everything has to go right. And if one play goes bad in an NFC Championship game, you lose. you lose. Like, it's so hard to win. And if they get the franchise quarterback right, whatever that guy is, if it's JJ, if it's Darnold, God forbid it's somebody else, if they get that right, they're going to be in position to compete for those Super Bowls. And that's going to be huge for the Minnesota Vikings. That's the goal. Kevin O'Connell said so in his statement, I want to bring Minnesota a Lombardi trophy. He wants that. He wants to bring it in to the Minnesota Vikings. And I think that's a huge factor here, Dave. They want to do this. They need to do this. And I think they're at least in a great spot to be able to do this. And I want to continue to see that from this Minnesota Vikings franchise. I think we're going to see it. I think we're going to see this team thrive. We're going to see them take the next step.
I agree. I think so too. I think Detroit's window is closing or closed now, and Green Bay's is never there under Jordan Love because Love stinks. I think J.J. McCarthy is going to take this division by storm here in the next few years, and I think Chicago is going to be Chicago. They may have a new head guy, but they've got to rebuild. They need offensive line. Ben Johnson supposedly is very much a control freak, likes the very planned and meticulous way to run an offense, has that dance floor mentality like Kirk Cousins, and doesn't like when somebody goes off script. Well, he's being paired up with Caleb Williams, Mr. Off Script. So we shall see how it goes, but it's going to be a fun one, and I like that everything is locked in right now, and soon will be with Kwesi as well. There's reporting that his is in work. I expect it within the next, 2 to 5 days that we'll hear Kwesi got extended as well.
I'm pulling it up here because somebody sent me a Jay Glazer tweet. So remember, Glazer reported that that Kevin O'Connell, teams would want to trade for Kevin O'Connell. So my sports update, Ari Myrov says, I have so many questions about the Kevin O'Connell trade story that dropped on the morning of week 18. Well, I'm sure teams are interested in trading for him. The timing couldn't have been worse for the Vikings, given they were playing for the number 1 seed that night. Fair. Jay Glazer, 3 paragraphs. Well, the timing was because that is when our show airs Fox NFL Sunday, not Wednesday or Thursday, Sunday. Every year for probably the last 15 years, the same weekend of my annual coaching carousel segment. I usually drop nuggets that day that aren't known. I don't work for Twitter. I work for Fox, so I went till Sunday to drop news. I hold news very often to use on Fox only. Oh, and by the way, there were in fact multiple teams interested in trading for KOC, and yes, the Vikings were aware of that. I never reported he's being traded because that's up to the Vikings. Just that he was on several teams to try and trade for. The several teams' radar. I think you missed the word. They did the smart thing by moving quickly to ensure he would happily be the Vikings head coach for years. Did my job reporting what was going on behind the scenes in some of these searches. This narrative that I reported to screw the Vikings when they were ready to play the Lions is the dumbest shit I've ever read. And I've read some really dumb shit over the years. Hope this helps. What a paragraph. That is, I am going to write about this because this is incredible. I'm not going to write it right now.
Purple Pessimist said, how hilarious would it be that he gets extended to be traded? It would be something, that's for sure. And that thought ran through my mind, but that's just because we're Vikings fans, and we always look for the shoe falling. So I see Sal's in their remarks. We're going live shortly after 7 o'clock tonight on her show as well. And I'm sure this topic will be brought up.
And I'm sure there will be plenty of thoughts from Sal. So make sure you guys tune in tonight. I want to spin the conversation forward here because it's not just about KOC. It's also about Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, Dave. And why doesn't Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah have an extension yet? Well, I think that's for 2 reasons. One, they just got the deal done with Kevin O'Connell first. Second, The Vikings have done a really good job, and they did this with the Justin Jefferson extension, to make sure that they have their own day. So KOC is probably going to get his own day where they get to celebrate his contract extension, and it's not going to be taken up by anybody else.
Yep,
I think that's a really important factor. Like,
I think JJ got a whole week, but anyways, yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, JJ did get a whole week. I woke up on Monday morning. Luckily, I had a pre-write ready to go, and then I spent the entire day just writing angles off of that extension. It was a fun day, but yeah, they like to give these guys the attention that they so richly deserve, and I would be surprised if it came tomorrow. I think it'll come at earliest Friday, where hey, Friday morning, Vikings and Kwesi Adofo-Mensah have agreed on a contract extension. I think that'd be great. I think you need to get KOC and Kwesi lined up. Like, on overall level, I think Kwesi Adofo-Mensah does a great job as the general manager. I think he's been tremendous. Not everything is hit, and I think people are too hard on him. I think people are too harsh on some of the moves that he's made. Like, here's my big thing. They did a great job in mitigating the Christian Darrisaw loss. Cam Robinson wasn't good the last 2 weeks. He fortified and stabilized that offensive line enough where they won 9 in a row. You give up a 4th-round pick. Did you want to give up a 4th-round pick? No. Is it a big deal? No. You're trying to make a Super Bowl run. And guess what? You won 14 games. That's a huge hit. Like, I think Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, because he's an analytics GM and he's going to live with that label forever, he's going to be unfairly criticized for some of those moves. And I don't necessarily agree with it, but it is what it is. Cause and Effect has a question. Forno, I think our GM will have his deal done end of the week, if not next week, and I believe Flo is back for one more year. But what is your first priority once the dust settles? So I would highly recommend you guys go check out the final episode of Meat and Potatoes. That show is being put on a hiatus for the time being on the Purple Daily YouTube channel podcast feed. I talked about this. The number one priority is going to be based on the market. And I think based on the market, the number one priority should be to get a penetrating pass rusher defensive tackle. There are more cornerbacks. There are a lot of running backs in the draft. There are some offensive linemen to be had, even guards. But there are only 3 pass rushing defensive tackles in this free agency class that are going to be worth a damn. I think that needs to be the priority number one. That doesn't necessarily mean it's the most important, but you have to look at it by market. If you lose out on DJ Reed, there's other corners. If you lose out on Trey Smith, there's other guards. If you lose out on those 3 defensive tackles, you're not getting one. And I think that aspect is what's important here. It's about attacking the position based on what the supply is. And the supply is not high for those players. So that's what I would do. Dave, what about you?
Oh, I agree that the supply and demand play into it. And then same in the draft. If you got a boatload of quality running backs, you can wait and get one. But if you need somebody, say a defensive tackle, then you got to get them first, because there's not that many that will qualify as hey, this guy could be a first-year starter and be a stud. Without a doubt, I agree. It's going to be interesting to see. Now, my first priority is that KOC fires Chris Cooper, but that's just me.
I don't think he's going to. My guess was that would have already happened if it was going to. I'm not going to sit here and tell you.
It frustrates me. 3 years of mediocre 4.1, 4.0, 4.1 yards per average. We definitely need a run game coordinator and a better offensive line coach that can get our offensive line playing better in the run as well as the pass. And 3 years of blah tells me that's one of the changes that KOC could make and probably should. But it may come down to availability in the market. How many quality O-line coaches are there out there available that could be sniped or, just available that he could call in and say, hey, come in and work with me. I'm going to make you my run game coordinator. Purple Pessimist says fire Wes Phillips. Well, Wes Phillips may know somebody. There's a good question, what does Wes Phillips do? Obviously, he's involved in the planning and everything, but we don't see a whole lot. And he was never in discussion to be hired off anywhere like other non-play calling OCs. So it's interesting.
It's very interesting. I'm intrigued to see how this continues to evolve for the Minnesota Vikings. They need to continue this. They need to find a way to continue to grow. And I think they're going to. I think the Vikings are in a great spot. I think they're going to continue to evolve. And that's the big thing. One thing I talked about, I think last night, Brian Flores' scheme continues to evolve every year. They're like the cornerstone of their scheme is that Bengal Hawk blitz, where you line up like 7 or 8 guys in the line of scrimmage, you drop 2 based on how the center turns. They don't run that anymore. Because it kind of got figured out. And now that they don't, they're moving on to other things. And they continue to move on. They continue to grow and adapt and evolve. And I think this coaching staff and front office is going to continue doing all of those things. I think it's a huge win for the Vikings. I think you can look at both factors here. You can look at a lot of different things to adapt and adjust. Look, at the end of the day, we can just keep talking around in circles. I'm thrilled that this got done.
Mm-hmm.
It needed to get done. The Vikings made sure it got done. And lo and behold, Dave, they did it.
Plus, it takes some national focus off the Bears and puts it on the Vikings where it belongs.
God bless America.
Mm-hmm. But it is what it is. So we'll see. Like I said, I think KOC's signing is a good thing. I like it. I was for it. This should have happened, and that it happened on the correct timeline. We will see. I know guys are saying, well, now we got to hold them, up to the standards. That should hopefully come along. We will see. The offense should be hopefully a top 5 offense under him. If we get a run game that's competent, and J.J. McCarthy, fits the mold and doesn't crush and melt under pressure. So I think we're going to be golden on that side, and most likely we're keeping Brian Flores because I don't see Dallas grabbing him, and it looks like everybody else is out. So we'll have a third year of his ability to adapt, and we'll see. Now Randy says, no, Dave, we don't want attention. That's when things have gone south. True, but I think the owners and the organization as a whole likes to be, seen as, hey, there's good things happening in Minnesota. You might want to come here. Hey, for free agency, free agents love KOC, right? He's gotten A+ grades every year. Now that he's locked in, there's going to be even more going, hey, coach isn't in question. If I go there and sign a contract, I know I've got KOC, and he's, all my buddies that are in Minnesota or were with him in LA or whatever say he's great, I'm going to Minnesota. So that's a bonus as well.
It's a huge bonus. Not only
the team is solidified, there's no turmoil, there's no nothing.
Yeah.
Except the will to improve.
Yeah. It's also when you kind of talk about the improvement and stuff and the draw for free agents, it's not just the coaching staff. It's not just the team. It's not just the front office. The Wilfs have a grade A organization. They finished first and second in the 2 NFLPA report cards. I think they're going to finish first or second again this year. They just treat everybody right. They handle their business. They have state-of-the-art facilities. They have state-of-the-art nutrition, state-of-the-art medical. Coaching staff is incredible. U.S. Bank is incredible.
You notice with all the new stadium and facilities upgrades that are being proposed, everybody's trying to emulate what they've done.
Mm-hmm. Now we just need a few Lombardi trophies in that trophy case.
Yes, I agree.
That's the last step, but we're gonna end this here with a question from R. Emmer that's kind of a different one. Is using the run to set up the pass dead? League feels more like use the pass, set up the run oriented currently. I think they're both equally important. You just can't be one-dimensional. I think you can pass the set up the run. I think you can run the set up the pass. It all depends on the objective that you're trying to do. Are you trying to hit play action shots? What are you trying to do? Like, are you trying to attack vertically so then you can open up the run game because you need light boxes? Are you trying to get them out of too high by establishing a power run game? I think it's a chess match. What are they doing? So what do I have to do in return? I think that's going to be the biggest factor here in answering that question, because
and it's cyclical,
I think we can do both.
Like everything in the NFL.
It is cyclical.
We've gone pass heavy, and then we'll start to move run heavy, especially with some good running backs from this season. We'll see.
And we're going to be cyclical here on the Real Forno Show and sign off. But we'll be back tomorrow night. We'll have a lot more conversation. We'll probably do a little bit of a Senior Bowl preview. And Sal will have a lot more tonight at 7, correct?
Yep, 7:05. We go live. Dustin Baker will be her guest.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I lied. We're going to answer one more question. Because we talked about this pre-show, but I don't think we talked about it here. Cause and effect asking if Ben Johnson's deal accelerated this move. There's a chance that they were waiting for Ben Johnson to sign before they inked.
Mm-hmm.
Players do this all the time. They wait for somebody else to sign so then they can set the market. Kevin O'Connell probably wanted to see, new coach are getting 13? Well, I want 15 then. And I think he's got every right to ask that. Thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Ring the bell for those notifications, because when breaking news happens, guess what? We're going to go live. And we did. We went live at 4:15. This is why you have those notifications on, so then you let know. And if you can't join live, guess what? Now you got something to listen to on the ride home. Thank you guys so much for catching up with us. I'm Tyler. He's Dave. SKOL Vikings, everybody.
SKOL Vikings. Like, subscribe, and ring the bell to get notifications. It helps us grow this community that we all love, our Minnesota Vikings. And on behalf of Tyler Fornes and myself, Dave Stefano, thank you so dearly for watching The Real Forno Show. SKOL, everyone!